got lots of real estate questions. Should I downsize? What improvements do I need to make before I sell? What will Connecticut's real estate market be like in 6 months? It's time for The Real Estate Show with Pat Civitella. He's got your answers. Call 203-333-9422. Now, here's your host, Pat Civitella.
Hello to everyone, and good evening, and thanks for tuning in to The Real Estate Show with me, your host, Pat Civitella, with over 35 years' experience in real estate investing game. This show is about creating long-term wealth through real estate investing and producing passive and residual income in real estate. I'm going to share with you my knowledge and offer guidance, inside information that most people are not aware of, and I can also show you how to develop and generate a secondary or primary income from real estate investing. The show consists of home improvement tips to increase the value and the best return on your improvements for your home. So I encourage everyone to call in if you have any questions or concerns about this topic or any other topic in real estate or home improvement. If you're interested to increase the value of the property, I probably have done it over the years. So call in with your questions. And call in early because we're limited on our time. I know we've had callers over the last couple shows that we weren't able to get to. The number here is 203-333-9422. That's 203-333-WICC. And we're at 600 AM, 107.3 FM. Okay, so we're going to go into our show this evening. First, we're going to have to start off with our sponsor for the show. And it's our good friends at 1-800-MR-JUNKER, Junk Removal Made Easy. They take the good, the bad, and the ugly. No need to do anything except point what you want gone, either one item. They'll do a complete house or business clean out. 1-800-MR-JUNKER is ready to serve you, serving Fairfield and New Haven counties for over 15 years. Please call our friends there and mention Pat Civitella on WICC, and you'll get 10% off your job. Yes, 1-800-MR-JUNKER for all your cleanup and junk removal service. They also offer same-day service. They are a hot tub removal specialist and also offer free junk car removal. Call 1-800-MR-JUNKER today, and you will be happy that you did. Okay, so let's go into into the show for tonight. A few things that I wanted to cover. First, I think spring is finally here, Rich. With last couple of days' weather, the trees are starting to bloom, dogwoods, the cherry blossoms, Bradford pears. Always love this time of the year, except for when I get my allergies. My allergies kicked in a couple of weeks ago, and that wasn't good. But anyways, we had some great weather. I was on the beach today with my wife. We're taking a walk on the boardwalk, and it was nice to see everybody out and about, kids, adults, everyone. And the weather's fine. I think finally has broke. So also notice with the good weather and the spring here, a lot of building going on, a lot of real estate activities. I don't know if I think you've been looking at it, Rich, the building across the street. I mean, they're moving right along with that thing. I mean.
Oh, they've been working on that for quite a while.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, they started maybe about, I would say, 4 or 5 months ago, but now they're like really kicking in. And there's got to be, I just did a quick look, Rich, but to me it looks like there's got to be at least 100 units there. What do you think?
I would say so, yeah. It depends, I guess, on how big each one is individually.
Yeah, because there's, I think, 4 individual buildings, and they're all like 4 stories, right?
Yeah, and it looked like originally they were only going to do one building, and then all of a sudden,
right? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when they first put up that building. I said, "Oh, that's going to be nice, one little building there." And then all of a sudden, boom, there's 4 buildings. But yeah, anyways, I don't know if anybody saw this. I don't know if you picked up on this too, Rich. But there was an article, I think, in yesterday's paper or one of the papers I was reading. They're thinking about adding 750 residential units to the Milford Mall.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, they've been talking about this since last year, and I think it's finally coming through. And I wanted to ask the audience out there, what are your thoughts? Or how about yourself, Rich? How would you think about living either in a mall or attached to a mall?
Well, I guess it's similar to like living in an apartment building, and the mortar and brick stores are kind of going away.
Absolutely.
So much. My sister even said that you try to go something, you get anything, and you order it online.
Right.
And if it doesn't work or it's broken, then you got to ship it back. Whereas a brick and mortar store, you take it back and you hand it back into them. So maybe they've got a whole lot of empty space and they got to utilize it somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great, reuse of space that people are not using or they can't rent. But I wanted to see what the audience thought about that, if they had any questions on it. But I thought it was pretty interesting. And somebody had asked me, would I like to live in a mall or near a mall? I says, you know what? I think I would like that because you could leave your apartment, either go down the elevator or go down the stairs and go shopping or go to one of the restaurants, and then afterwards get coffee and then go back to go to your apartment. I think it's a cool concept, and I think it'll definitely work because a lot of people enjoy the activity, they enjoy the people being around. So I think there's a lot there. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Living in the mall. All right. So I also wanted to give you my contact information. Again, it's Pat Civitella. That's Civitella @gmail.com. And my office number is 203-736-2484. Again, if you have any interest in buying and selling real estate, any type, please call me if you have any questions and I can help you with. The number again is 203-736-2484. All right. What do we got, Rich?
Yeah, we got Boz from Bridgeport calling in with a question for you.
Okay. What is it, Bob?
Boz.
Oh, Boz. Yes, Boz.
Boz, how are you, brother? Paul, Pat, how are you?
Good.
Here's
how are
my
you?
question. Good. Great show. You looking for more advertisers?
Looking for more advertisers? What do you have?
Well, we could talk off there. I don't want to talk about what I do.
Okay,
for
yeah,
free,
just give me a call.
give
me a call at my office number. Did you take down my number?
I'll get it.
Yeah.
I'll get it. So here's my question. You mentioned last week about your home. It was good. Your home is a liability.
Correct.
Right? So
Correct.
I get that. But how does that work for someone like my wife and I who have a two-family house? I may know the answer, but I don't know if the audience does. So if you could kind of just share with everybody how the liability thing changes when you live in a, legitimate two-family house like I lived in.
Yeah, well, that's totally different because you're actually living in an asset. You're not living in a liability because you have income coming in from the other property, and it
Right.
offsets your expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the case of a two-family house, would you say it's like half a liability then? Because, your floor is the one that I live on is whatever expenses I have are those expenses, correct? And then upstairs is a different situation.
Correct. And, like I said, as long as it's not a single family, yeah, the reason I always bring it up I think on all of my shows is that people are misinformed or brainwashed that even the bankers tell you that your single family home is an asset. It is not an asset. An asset, by definition, makes you money, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
A single family, but do they pitch it as an asset because of what you paid for it and what you could sell it for? Is that how they're pitching it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's based on speculation or future appreciation. I mean, again, a simple asset, whether it's real estate or whether it's even a business. I mean, you could buy a business, and if it's not making you money, it's not an asset.
I see.
You know what I mean? It's just that it's
I get it.
But unfortunately, people are thought, are programmed to think like, oh, I'm going to buy a single family home, and they think that's an asset. It's not, because every month you're putting money out, whether it's your taxes, whether it's your insurance, whether it's upkeep, maintenance, heating oil. It goes on and on and on.
And the other thing too is when you buy a house, let's say someone bought a house years ago for $50,000, right?
Right.
And they sold now for $7 something.
Right.
But they never figure what the amortization, what the mortgage was over the 30 years. So people say, "Oh, you bought your house for $50 and I sold it for $700." But wait a second, what did that 50 really cost you over the 30 years?
Exactly.
How much did you put into it? So if let's say the house was 50,
yeah,
and it really cost you, let's say 90, and then you put in 400, your real cost basis is 490 or let's say 500. So if you sell it for 650, you really made 150, not starting from the 50. Gabish?
100%. And that's that you made 150 over 30, 40, 50 years. It's,
Right.
Yeah.
So if you took that 150 and divided it by, let's say, so many years, then the real estate investment that you could buy and flip or whatever, you could make that money in a shorter period of time.
Right. And like I said, an investment, I had this conversation with my dad, rest his soul, back about 10, 15 years ago. He was living down south in the Carolinas. Him and my mom, they were there for almost 10 years. He bought a house back then. I think it was around about $200,000. And then after about 9, 10 years, they were getting up in age, and they decided to come back to Connecticut. And he was fixated like, I got to make money on this. I go, Dad, why do you got to make money on it? First of all, you didn't buy it as an investment. You didn't buy it as a business. You bought it and you lived in it for 10 years. I don't know why you think you need to make a profit. At the time, the market wasn't as good as it is today. But, he sold it. I don't think he made that much money. But, people think like you're entitled to make a profit on your home.
Yeah, well, one thing an old real estate guy said to me once, real estate is like a staircase. It goes up, it could come down. Most of the people my age, it went up for a lot of years till 1987. But it goes up, it goes down. What I mean by that is my house, believe it or not, in 1918, it cost, I have the building permit, $4,200. I don't care what happens to the city. No one's ever going to get it for $4,200.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But it goes up and down. But let me ask you one last question.
Yes.
They talk about paying off a house, right? You pay it off and whatever. But in some cases, because of what property taxes are, people had less of an expense when they bought their house in 1968. Let's say you bought a house in Trumbull in 1968 for $45,000.
Yes.
Your mortgage payment principal is less than, let's say, the $1,200 a month it is for taxes, the expenses now. So in a way, you almost were better off back when you were paying the mortgage when it was maybe $200 a month. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like people think, when the house gets paid off. Yeah, it gets paid off. You're not paying on that interest, but your expenses sometimes for elderly people could be more now than with when they were raising 4 kids back in the day, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, just take a look at all the people down in Florida. They're getting hit. They're getting hit with this insurance on the property. Some increases are 40, 50%, and they're all on fixed incomes. How do you think they're going to manage? Yeah, no, but years ago, I know. Let's say when my parents, and you say, "Gee, we're going to pay off the house someday," but you still have property taxes, you still have homeowners insurance, you still have the water bill. But all I'm saying is, in your parents too, I bet your parents' mortgage when you came from Italy, if they added up all their expenses, it was less than what the property taxes are for that house right now in a month. Absolutely, and it goes back to my point: is like your property is never an asset because it's always cost you money. And speaking of, my parents bought a house in 1977 in Derby, and it was a ranch, a regular ranch, about 1,200 square feet, $40,000. You know what my mom and dad's mortgage payment was? $157. And and that was 1977. I bought my first property in 1988. I went home and told my dad I bought an investment property. He was sitting down. I don't know if I think I told this story before, but he was sitting down on a chair, Boz, and I says, Dad, I just bought this property, 4 units plus this and 5 units. And I go, and he goes, well, how much is the mortgage? I go, with Dad, it's like $1,600. He turned almost white and almost fell off the chair. Many years ago, my mother and father, I'm originally from Long Island, and they were playing cards with my father's sister and a bunch of them back in Floral Park. And my mother said to my Uncle Johnny, who was an accountant, this might be 1962, 64, somewhere like that. Right.
He said to my uncle with housing, what do you think houses are going to be when our kids go to buy a house? And my uncle answered her, probably about $86,000. You know what I paid for the house I'm in now in 1984? My brother and I bought it. $86,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the interest rate was 18%, but the taxes here were $1,700 a month. So what happens is, as the interest rate comes down, the houses go up, but your payment is still the same because 9%. Like, let's say the house is 86 at 18% interest. Well, if you double it to 170 something, but the interest rate is 9%, your payment is almost the same.
Absolutely.
You know, so what I'm saying is, in real estate, you got to really do the honest numbers. You can't shade it in. If you're going to be a good real estate, you have to work with actual figures, not, you know, maybe. Or
absolutely, and that's what I preach all the time. I mean, that first property I was just telling you that I bought, the interest rate was 11%. You know what? People would go crazy today if you had to pay 11%. But again, like you said, it's all based on the numbers. I knew the numbers worked, so the interest rate was just part of the equation, part of the purchase.
Well, when my brother and I bought the house I'm in now, it was $86,000. We mortgaged $76,000. We both paid like $611 each. I paid $611. He paid, and that was principal, interest, and whatever.
Right.
But let me ask you one last question before I let you go.
All right. We got to make it quick, Ross.
I will. You'll like this question.
Yeah.
In a situation like mine with a two-family house, because I had to buy it about 22 years ago from my brother. I own the whole thing now, my wife and I.
Right.
I have about maybe 6 or 7 years left before it's paid off. Would I be better letting the tenant keep paying to pay it off, or should I take, when I can, extra money and try to get it paid off quicker? Being that I have people paying it, am I better off letting them pay it down, or me try to move it along a little bit? That's my last question.
Yeah, my answer to that is have your tenant pay it. Why would you want to tie up your money?
That's my question.
Yeah. All right.
That's it.
All right. All right. Ci vediamo.
We got to do a show together someday. Have me as a guest. We'll be good.
Give me a call at the office number 203-736-2484. I'm going to take a little quick break and we'll be right back.
Got real estate questions? Call 203-333-9422 and ask Uncle Pat.
Okay, Boz, call me at my office, 203-736-2484. Again, that's 203-736-2484. And you're listening to the Real Estate Show with your host, myself, Pat Civitella. And we're going to get into the rest of the show that I had planned. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, let's see here. Talked about the good weather and everything at the beach. Okay. I got a little segment here. I named it, What Happened to Pasquale This Week? And you know who Pasquale is. That's me, you know. So let's see. We had a couple, 2 apartments that we had on the market for rent. And the reason I'm bringing this up is to show a point that I'm trying to make about real estate being local, being unique, and it all depends on the area, location, so forth and so on. So we had 2 apartments. One of them was located in Woodbury, and one was in Seymour. They were both 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. And the one in Woodbury we completely redid that whole apartment from top to bottom. I mean, we gutted that thing and we put in all new everything. Even central air, heating, the whole bit. The other apartment in Seymour, we remodeled that apartment probably about 2-3 years ago. So the point of the story is that they both went on the market relatively the same time, maybe within a week's time. Seymour property, we had huge amounts of activities. I mean, we had, I don't know, compared to the one in Woodbury, it was probably 80% more activity than we did in Woodbury. And obviously the price was a little different, so that might have been a factor. But again, the reason I'm bringing this up is the one in Woodbury, it's a very low rental market area. There isn't a lot of rents available in that area, And at the same time, I don't think there's a lot of demand for the rents in that area. Just due to the fact that we had it on the market at the same time as the Seymour one, and the activity from one to the other was like day and night. Again, the one in Woodbury was a little bit more expensive, but you would think we would get just maybe not the same amount of activity, but a lot more than we get. What we did. So again, it all depends. Real estate is local, unique, and it also depends on supply and demand. And the demand just wasn't there, I don't think, in that market. And then I think there was other issue on that apartment was located on top of an office, which was in a real estate strip center. So I guess that maybe wasn't appealing to more people compared to like a residential area. But I just wanted to bring that up. So we had those two apartments. It's funny, we both rented them like within the same week, and we got both of those rented out. So that was a good thing. The bad thing about this business that everybody always tells about the good, but nobody talks about the bad or the ugly. And Easter Sunday morning, 10 a.m., I'm at home getting ready for Easter Sunday with the family, and we get a call, about a plumbing problem with one of the properties. And I could swear, Rich, that every time, whether it's either a holiday, either it's a weekend, a Friday night, it always happens it's the Murphy's Law, It can be extremely cold out, freezing. And I remember one winter about 10, 15 years ago, we had like a whole month, I think it was like 30 days or more of below freezing temperature. And I'm telling you, we had such a hard time because we had frozen pipes breaking and busting. I mean, every place, because it's unusual to get, consistently like, 3 weeks or 4 weeks of below 32 degrees or below freezing temperature. And I tell you, we had our hands full that winter. And so, those are the things that happen in this business. But you got to roll with the punches, and sometimes you got to take it on the chin. But overall, to me, it's been a great business. It still is. But I wanted just to make that a point too, that everybody always says, "Oh, it's easy," or "It's a piece of cake," or this, that, and the other.
Well, that's also why you said you want to have good people available. If you need a plumber or a carpenter or something like that, you need to call them
absolutely. And another, I had another note on here. Here it is, right here. Another winter, which was only like maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 6 or 7, but it was a big blizzard. Never forget or remember that we had a no heat call on the building. So I says, "Oh my God, wouldn't you know it's the middle of a blizzard and this and that." So things are bad when you call. I called our heating guy that we've been using for years, and he says to me, he goes, "I'm sorry, Pat, but I'm not coming out." And I'm thinking, okay, but I says, "I'm willing to go out, even if I have to meet you there or even if I have to come and get you." And he says, "No, I'm sorry, I can't come out." But I guess that's where it makes the difference from people who can or people who can't. But anyways, I wanted to talk about that. Also, I wanted to talk quickly about what we got, about 5 minutes, Rich? 4 minutes, all right. I wanted to talk about the topic that I've discussed probably before, that there's good debt and bad debt. There's the good debt is always good when you're making money off that debt, like I just talked about with the caller that just called in. Like when I paid 11% interest on that money, it was just part of doing business. It's part of the expenses. But I was there was enough cash flow on that property that the percentage didn't matter. It was just a factor in what the expenses were. So that to me, and that's to every real estate investor, is good debt. So you could, I would do that all day long, as long as the property cash flows and it covers all your expenses, including your interest rate, your principal and interest, and all your expenses. Borrow the money. That's great debt. I mean, the more you could borrow, more you can leverage. you start cash flowing on each property. Let's say you're cash flowing, just conservatively, like $300, $400 a property. And let's say you do that over 10 properties. Now you're multiplying 10 times 400. Now you're at $4,000 a month positive cash flow. Again, but you got to make sure all those numbers work. And like the caller says, you got to be legitimate on those numbers as far as being accurate, or anticipate expenses. Like you have to also have like a little rainy fund account for non-things that you can't foresee, so you don't get hurt. So I wanted to go over that, the good debt and the bad debt. I had a whole other sheet of stuff that I wanted to go over, but I don't think I'm going to have time because I got to do one more commercial for our sponsor, and then I have some closing thoughts that I actually wrote down this week. All right, so again, one more time for our sponsor, 1-800-MR-JUNKER, junk removal made easy. They will take the good, the bad, and the ugly. No need to do anything except for point what you want gone. They'll either do one item, complete house or business cleanout. Call our friends at 1-800-MR-JUNKER. They've been serving Fairfield and New Haven counties for over 15 years. Please call our friends and mention Pat Civitella on WICC, and they'll give you 10% off the job. Again, that's 1-800-MR-JUNKER. So don't forget to give them a call because springtime is here. It's now the time to clean out your basements, garages, attics, and so forth and so on, yards and whatever debris hanging around.
I think Stratford had the large item pickup because I noticed several of them.
Yeah,
on my street.
town too, in Milford, they're doing bulk pickup too, and I think a lot of the towns now are starting to do them. All right, so quickly, closing notes. Always buy assets, not liabilities. Remember, you make a living from 9 to 5, working from 9 to 5, but you become wealthy from working from 5 to midnight. What we just talked about also, remember there's good debt and bad debt. And the best income is passive income or mailbox money. That's one of my favorites. And I think that's it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to cover everything that I wanted, but we had a good caller call in on a couple of good things. And we'll see you next week in our next show. Tuesday is at 7 here on WICC 600 AM, 107.3 FM.
And having the callers is a good thing because it helps give it maybe a different topic that you hadn't planned on
covering.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like last week, we had a caller that wanted to talk about squatters, and we covered that topic. So that was good. So if you have any questions or concerns, you could call me directly at my office at 203-736-2484. Again, that's 203-736-2484. Again, remember that there's good debt and bad debt, and I hope everybody has a great day, a nice week, and buonasera a tutti. Ciao, al settimana prossimo, ci vediamo. Have a good night, God bless America, and thank you for listening to the Real Estate Show with Pat Civitella. Thank you, have a good evening.